Gavel's over
I
here.
gotta-
Good evening, everyone. I'll call our meeting to order at 6 p.m. in council chambers. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy,
Present.
Razak,
Present.
Timian,
Present.
Finch,
Present.
McNeil,
Present.
Castro,
Present.
Schmidt.
Present.
Is there any public comment, Chief? Okay. Questions on the agenda? I just have a couple items of information for you. You should have a page in front of you with some new wording. For the Cal agenda item 6.1 and council agenda item 18.1, the amount of interest owed has decreased. And you each have a copy of the latest agreement and the amended council bill. On the committee of the whole agenda, I will read the resolution as stated on the agenda. I will then ask for someone to make an amended motion. Make sense? Okay. So with that said, here we go. 6.1, a resolution authorizing the fire chief to execute a short form conditional sale agreement with Flex Financial, a division of Stryker Sales LLC, for the purchase and service coverage of 3 LifePak 35 monitors and 2 power load systems from Stryker for the amount of $323,216.65 plus interest for the total amount of $363,465.48. Go right ahead.
Okay, so, do you want me to speak to what we're purchasing or the change? Okay, so we're purchasing our cardiac monitors that are capable of doing 12 lead diagnostic tests. We have 3 of them currently that were purchased in 2013. They are no longer serviceable. So we were informed by the company that they're not going to service them if something breaks with them. So we need to replace them. So we've decided to upgrade to their latest product, these LifePak 35 cardiac monitors. The power load systems, when we bought the new ambulances last year, we took the old ones out of the old ambulances, put them in the new ambulances, and then we purchased 1 at that time. So now we're purchasing the other 2 to put them in the ambulances, because those also have reached their service life as well.
All right, and then would you speak to the change of?
Yeah,
the
when we
interest?
talked about the agreement with Stryker, they gave us the price based on the interest rate in September. Now they've updated it. I got an email the other day that they updated it. And so the interest rate has dropped a little bit, so we save $40 per year for the 6 years, each of the 6 years. So we're gonna enter into a 6-year agreement that has a service plan with it, and it'll be $60,000 a year for 6 years, just over $60,000 a year for 6 years. And then that's gonna come out of the line item in the budget that already we are putting money aside, knowing we're anticipating that. So we've been putting $60,000 a year in that account since 2021. And so now we're just gonna take what money we put in there and make these payments on this.
Great, thank you.
Your
So-
Honor, I would like to make an amended motion to approve authorizing the fire chief to execute a short form conditional sale agreement with Flex Financial, a division of Stryker Sales LLC, for the purchase and service coverage of 3 LifePak 35 monitors and 2 power load systems from Stryker for the amount of $323,216.65 plus interest for the total amount of $363,224.94.
Second. All right, motion by Schmidt, seconded by Finch. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Timian.
I would just like to commend you all for saving $60,000 a year in anticipation for future expenditures. I think that's fantastic.
Yes, fantastic.
Thank you. Mr. Macias.
Along the same line, so how long were we saving the 60,000 per year?
Since 2021 was what I'm told.
Oh, okay. So do they offer this without necessarily the financing, just like outright?
Cash.
They do, and so that part of that $60,000, it's basically divided over a couple things. We need new air packs. It's an air pack fund and monitor fund is basically what it boils down to. So we looked at just doing the outright outlay of cash. We are anticipating replacing the other ones in. They have service life until 2029. We have a service contract until 2029 with the remaining 6 cardiac monitors we carry on the fire engines. And so we want to keep some of that money in reserve in case we have to replace any of those sooner.
Thank you.
Understood, thank you. Anything further from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, thank you. 6.2, a resolution authorizing the Director of Parks and Recreation to purchase a mini pitch system for Riverside Park from Musco Lighting for the amount of $111,700, utilizing the Sourcewell contract number 041123-MSL. Mr. Griffin.
Yeah, so about 4.5 years ago, when we were talking about the Riverside Legacy project, this was having too many pitches was actually part of the project, but due to over the bids coming in, that was actually cut from it. So seeing how popular they are at Stevens Park, we are able to be able to purchase one and a larger one that's at what's currently at Stevens Park. The ones at Stevens Park are for basketball and soccer. We're focusing just on soccer at Stevens or at Riverside Park. So Park Board approved it a couple weeks ago, and I asked for approval tonight.
Thank you. I need a motion.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion. Thank you for not letting this slip through the cracks, right? Sometimes when we put things on hold, that can happen, but thank you. Anything further from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. 6.3, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to an agreement for professional services between the city of Moline and Thomas A. Scaruppa to extend his services as the city's zoning hearing officer for a 3-year period commencing October 21, 2025. Mr. Vitas?
Sure, I'm happy to take that, Madam Mayor. Members of council, what we're looking for is to basically extend the services of Mr. Scaruppa based upon an agreement that expired several years ago, actually. I think it was 2019, maybe?
2019.
2019, if I heard correctly. So he's been operating without an agreement the last several years, 6 years actually. And this basically is just bringing things in alignment with what he's currently making and continuing to provide the services that he does. This is in, of course, we don't have a zoning board of appeals, but we have a zoning hearing officer. So he serves in that capacity.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Razak. Questions or conversation? Commentary? I was confused because I was thinking, why did it take until now to find out that he had no updated agreement?
Because we are in the process in the legal department of undertaking a long-awaited review of all existing contracts, agreements, intergovernmental agreements, and leases, and ensuring that they are all brought up to date. Something that every city seems not to do as often as they should. So we have a process that started some time ago, and they've been making headway. So as we find any of these loose ends, we are going to bring them to you.
Okay, thank you. Anything further from the council? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. 6.4, an ordinance amending Chapter 22, offenses miscellaneous of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Section 22-1105, tobacco products, tobacco accessories, smoking herbs, and alternative nicotine products by repealing subsection G in its entirety and enacting in lieu thereof one new subsection G dealing with the same subject matter. Mr. Atkins.
The purpose behind this particular change in the ordinance is to prevent some of the underage sales that we know have been occurring that unfortunately we hadn't been able, under our existing ordinance, to do anything about. Essentially, what the requirement here is, it will mean that everyone selling tobacco will have to ask for an ID unless they can point to some indicia of the person who is attempting to buy the product that that person appears to be 40 or older. So for instance, if I were to walk in and attempt to purchase tobacco, I think they would be entirely justified in not asking for my ID. It was very polite that he made it appear as if he thought that they should, but I know that I look over 40. However, if someone much younger were to walk in and they didn't have some indicator such as gray hair, crow's feet, whatever, then if in fact they sold without asking for ID, even if that person assured them that they were over 21, it would still be a violation of this provision requiring the request for ID. So we get around the potential issue, which I've discussed with some of you previously, about entrapment. If we have an individual who claims to be 21 when in fact they are not, there is an argument that the individual who is selling to them is being entrapped with regards to that. That will not be an issue with this because this particular provision is going to require looking at the ID. And even if the kid says, I'm over 21, if they can't produce ID that says they're over 21, then it's not going to be a proper sale. So this takes care of the issue that we had previously. As I said, I've discussed with a number of you. We are going to continue refining this, but I do want you to understand with regards to the sting operation or the review of compliance operation, whichever way you want to look at it, that the state police recently gave us money for, the state recently gave us money for. We will not be combining enforcement with regards to this provision with that, because that is specifically looking at compliance with state law, and this is an ordinance. This is not a requirement of state law. So my plan is, if this passes tonight, and after it's gone through its multiple readings, that I would then send out a letter to all of the individuals with tobacco licenses in the city of Moline, and they would be informed that we were planning on testing this for compliance at some point in the near future. There wouldn't be any surprise here. We're letting them know right up front what they need to do, and we're telling them we're going to send people in and we're going to see if you do it. So if anyone ends up being caught with this particular provision not being something they're complying with, there really is no reason to feel sorry for them because we're giving them every opportunity to comply. If you have any questions regarding it further, I would gladly answer those. I'm sure that the chief of police would be able to answer anything regarding our prior enforcement efforts as well.
Thank you.
Motion to approve? Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? That motion passes. 6.5, an ordinance amending Chapter 22, Offenses Miscellaneous of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Article 1 in general by enacting one new Division 9 entitled Private Security Guards. Chief.
Thank you, Your Honor. The city of Moline and most of the Quad Cities has not previously seen private security guards in a security fashion in our businesses, particularly armed security guards, like large urban cities such as Chicago, Dallas, etc. do see. Recently, we had a business hire armed private security guards, and they were not in compliance with state regulations. Those state regulations are before you today, which the city attorney has drafted, and give us power to enforce that. I had filed a complaint with the Department of Professional Regulation regarding an incident over the summer of a security guard that was not in compliance with what you see here, which is state regulation. We didn't have any enforcement provisions. That investigation has still lingered. They are in the back and forth of letters and compliance and demands. I've since gotten this business into compliance after several stern letters that I've sent to them, and finally having to tell them that we would take a criminal action in having to possibly arrest individuals for violations. They finally did come into compliance with this. But in speaking with the city attorney, we thought it would be best if we had some way to enforce these regulations. And what you see before you are very simple. Things like defining, of course, what their uniform needs to be, what their prohibited uniforms cannot include, things like police, sheriff. You would think, well, that would never happen. Well, it did. We had an incident where this security company was hiring Chicagoland suburb police officers, and they came down here and wore police tactical vests, and we're in the private business. I told them they could not do that, which they cannot. I did have some power there, but here you can see the wording that they cannot wear things like police, sheriff, etc. And then if they are going to carry weapons, that they have to have the name of their security guard company, a patch or insignia designating the position that they hold, and that they're plainly visible on the name of the private security contractor agency, to be plainly visible on a patch or insignia. I believe at least I notified the mayor, but you'll be shocked to know that we had, after I told them they couldn't wear police uniforms anymore, they were wearing nothing. They were wearing clothes. That would be a different ordinance we'd be talking about. They had stripped the patches off of a tactical vest and were wearing all black tactical gear. And that individual got into a foot pursuit all the way across John Deere Road, all the way up 41st Street, and ended up taking somebody into custody up by Bickford Cottage. Not to get into the weeds here, I was very unhappy about that, which ultimately led us to discuss what actions that we could take to regulate these types of activities in the city of Moline. So before you, you have this ordinance. I would ask you to approve it. Obviously, it has to go through the process. I can tell you that currently we have solved this problem. We don't have anyone that's out of compliance, but I will tell you, I used to chair the Public-Private Partnership Committee for the state of Illinois, and it's very common in Chicago. They're hiring private security companies to patrol neighborhoods, which I support. I think that some of these things are good, but now we have a way to regulate them and ensure that their uniforms meet what our public expects out of security guards and, of course, police officers as well.
Motion to approve?
Second. Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes. 6.6, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute task order number 25-04 pursuant to agreement for technical services dated December 18, 2018 with Strand Associates Incorporated dated October 1, 2025 regarding North Slope wastewater treatment plant construction-related services for the chemical phosphorus removal improvements project for the amount of $196,000 and authorizing the Director of Utilities to execute any necessary documents related to this work. Ms. Williams.
Good evening. You have before you an agreement with Strand and Associates to continue services for our North Slope. It is actually starting construction on Thursday, so that's very exciting. And I'm asking consideration to enter into this agreement for them to continue technical services during construction. It also includes a portion of that fee which would be part-time on-site construction management as well for this particular project. So it's both for reviewing construction drawings, answering questions, and then having someone actually at the site.
Motion to approve?
Second. Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. 6.7, a resolution authorizing the Director of Utilities to execute an agreement for services with Terracon Consultants, Inc. for concrete material testing, geotechnical construction-related services, and special inspection services as required for the South Slope wastewater reclamation facility improvements construction project for the estimated amount of $198,880, and authorizing the Director of Utilities to execute any necessary documents related to this work. Mr. Vitas or Ms. Williams? Go ahead.
She's there.
Good evening. I have before you this consideration also with Terracon. We are well under construction out at South Slope. There is a lot of demolition that has already been occurring. They're well on their way. And as a part of that, it's very important to have construction testing for concrete as well as other materials to ensure the ongoing structures and getting what we have in our design. And as a part of that, Terracon had been involved with doing soil analysis in the past and that information has been used in the development of the construction plans. So we are asking consideration from the council to continue with Terracon to do these types of construction services. This is a 4-year project, 13 new buildings alone, as well as a lot of other moving parts to this project. To the best that we can estimate this dollar amount, we believe this will cover it, but in the event it does not, we may be coming back at a later date. So with that, I'm happy to answer your questions.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Razak. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes. 6.8, a resolution granting a variance to Chapter 28, Streets and Sidewalks of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Section 28-3200. When required, engineer's general responsibility, temporary certificate of occupancy variances, subsection A, and Chapter 35, zoning and land development, Section 35-4218, sidewalks, to allow a temporary modification to delay installation of a public sidewalk along 14th Street for the subject property located at 3418 14th Street, Moline.
We received an application from Scott Shattuck, who is building a new single-family home where a previous single-family home was removed, and he's building a new home. And he requested a temporary modification to delay the construction of a public sidewalk, which would be about approximately 76 feet in length along 14th Street. We did some research, and there are a few other variances for sidewalks that were granted on that same street. The property directly south of this was granted a variance in July of 2011, and then there was another house, a few houses to the north, about 320 feet to the north, that was also granted a sidewalk variance in April of 2014. So I guess if you have any other questions or answers.
Thank you.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion? Yes, Mr. Timian.
Just a reminder that these requirements are put into place simply because there were so many neighborhoods that don't have sidewalks. And the thought was, as houses were rebuilt or constructed, it would, little by little, brick by brick, rebuild the sidewalk infrastructure that was overlooked when the original bulk standards were created. And I'm sympathetic that 14 years ago, we also issued a variance, but I would like to think that we're a little bit more forward-thinking than that now. I think that we don't rebuild the sidewalk infrastructure by continuing to give variances, so I will be voting against this.
Thank you. Anything further from the council? All in favor?
Aye.
I think I'm gonna have to do a roll call. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
No.
Timian.
Nay.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Nay.
Castro. Schmidt.
Aye.
Murphy.
Nay.
What's that vote? 4-4?
Yep.
Aye.
4.
That motion passes. 5-4. Thank you very much. 6.9, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a licensing agreement with Harold's Chicken and Sports Bar LLC to install, use, and maintain a sign and awnings overhanging 5th Avenue and 15th Street right-of-way at 425 15th Street.
Be happy to take this one, Mayor. Before you is a request from the owners of Harold's Chicken for the approval to have the sign that has long stood on that property and previously bore the name of a different business. And it does require that a license agreement be entered into by municipal code. So we're recommending approval of the request from Harold's Chicken and Sports Bar LLC to continue to maintain the sign.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Timian. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. 6.10, a resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a licensing agreement with New Style Barbershop, Inc. to install, use, and maintain pan faces and existing wall sign for advertising/identification purposes only above the entrance of 3217 Avenue of the Cities, Moline, Illinois, that will overhang public right-of-way.
Madam Mayor, members of council, similar to item 6.9, there is an existing sign that was on the previous business. I believe it was known as the Rage Room, which is no longer in business. So similar to Harold's Chicken, the existing sign, the faces of the sign would be replaced and a licensing agreement is required by code. So we're recommending approval.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. 6.11, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest to a redevelopment and economic incentive agreement between the city of Moline and Illinois Domus 2 LLC related to the TIF 13 Moline Center redevelopment project area as amended. Mr. Parr.
Hello. Illinois Domus 2 is the owner of a 6.636 acre tract of land located at 1236 Avenue. You have some renderings of the development in front of you. The development proposes for a minimum of 64 residential apartments, 2 commercial spaces, 49 off-street parking spaces, including garage and other protected parking spaces. Proposed development is in TIF 13, Moline Center redevelopment project area, and the owner has requested TIF assistance. The incentive agreement contemplates TIF assistance in the amount of $1.92 million, which represents about 13% of the total development cost, $15.4 million for the project. It would be under a pay-as-you-go model, so this would just be provided from property taxes received, the increment of property taxes received for eligible costs over the life of the TIF, which TIF 13 currently expires in 2039. So on completion, probably about 12 years left on the balance of TIF, which is plenty of time to cover this projected TIF incentive amount. Previously, we did bring an inducement resolution forward proposing amendment to the project area to include additional 0.09 acres added to the 0.55, which makes up this total site. So that was previously presented and approved. That TIF amendment plan is on file with the city clerk at this time. We'll be bringing forward the resolution for public hearing in that in the coming months to go through that process. So there's the boundary amendment process that will move forward. So staff recommends approval of this ordinance for execution of redevelopment economic incentive agreements with Illinois Domus 2 LLC for the project Modern 2 and TIF 13. We have Mr. David Silverman with us as legal counsel that has worked with us with Mr. Atkins and I on the incentive agreement. Also have Jim Thompson representing Domus 2 developer. And again, you have rendered. So any questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Tamian. Discussion. Yes, Mr. Tamian.
Thank you for whoever did this to make the buildings effectively back of curb and not having the parking in front. I think it is a much better look. We could turn back time, different conversation, but I'm really glad to see this design standard. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Anything further from the council? Hearing none. Yes,
I'd like to
Mr.
comment.
Vitas?
I'd just like
Yes,
to
go ahead.
comment, and I want to reach out to Mr. Thompson. It's been 4 years since we first spoke about this project. It was a long time ago, and a lot's happened in between now and then, right? Both personally and professionally. And he stood up the project. You know, he was committed to it. He stood up this project. You know, the increment he's requesting in relationship to the end result is, you know, it's minimal, really, when you look at the scope of this project and the impact it's going to have on the city downtown. You know, 6th Avenue is kind of like the entrance into our downtown, and what a bold statement to make. You know, across the street from one of the oldest churches in the city, beautiful park, you know, with his existing project, you know, with the red brick street on 13th Street. You know, it just makes sense that a project like this, which meets our form-based code requirements as well. Everything we've been doing for 4 years has led to, I think, the total project. And I have to appreciate the work you've done and the respect you've shown to the community by, you know, the requests you've made, which were, you know, really minimal. And at the same time, meeting with all these new codes that weren't there 4 years ago when we spoke. We didn't even have form-based code back then. So this is just an example of what's coming for the future of downtown Moline, you know, and you get to go first. And I compliment you, sir, for what you've done.
The mic is all yours.
I'd like to thank the city, in particular Bob, et cetera. We have looked, how many plans did we go through trying to find something right
Let's see.
to fit there?
More fingers.
It was quite
More
a few.
fingers.
Thanks you to the city for giving me the necessary dollars here to make this a viable project. I want you to know I'm very appreciative. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further from the council?
And I want to thank Chris and David
Oh, yes.
for the heavy lift that they did, because without the two of them, we wouldn't be here tonight, so.
Thank you. If there's nothing further, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. All right, we're to our informationals. Administration's recommendation on the 2026, 2028 budgets.
Okay, well, I'm going to kick it off, and then Carol's going to wrap it up. How's that? We're almost there, folks. Saturday is just around the corner. We're planning for a very good meeting, and hopefully a quick meeting, so that you can spend the most of the day Saturday with your families once we're done with the budget. But just looking at where we are now, we're sitting on a $164.1 million total budget for the city of Moline for fiscal year 2026. I think most importantly to note, and we've said it before and we'll continue to say it, the cash reserves across all funds and all the fund balances are healthy. Not many cities can say that. I mean, that is really an accomplishment for the city of Moline. That's really, though, achieved by what? Conservative spending. There's no question that any spending we do is conservative. It's very measured spending, and that's what leads to those healthy fund balances at year end, and not having to tap fund balances at all in order to make our projects happen. So phenomenal work on the part of all departments to achieve that. And it's also the financial planning. The fact that we have 3-year budgets gives us the ability to pre-plan how we're going to spend our money, but not in the traditional sense of having a financial forecast, which is the way it was always done years ago. 5-year financial forecast looking forward. This is a line item by line item forecast, and it's literally having 3 operating budgets, only one of which you adopt. So that's what puts us in the position that we are in order to make informed financial decisions. This particular budget follows the council's plan. I know I've heard Carol say that before, and it does have sustainable solutions, not just solutions for today, but looking futuristically, not just for us sitting in these chairs today, but for those who are going to one day sit in our chairs behind us. So it's kind of creating and charting a course for the future. It does align with the 4 pillars of the strategic plan. As you know, infrastructure, housing, economy, quality of place. We added housing, like infrastructure. Those are our 2 number 1 priorities, because one goes with the other and vice versa. And we need those in place and operating. So our strategic plan goals are well laid out, as well as our pillars. I won't get into defining those for you. I think you can see that on page number 1 of the presentation. And there they are. Quality of place, economy, housing, and infrastructure. They're all equally important, but the first 2 are really what drive the last 2. Our Special Capital Projects Fund is a $100 million 10-year plan. This is your strategic funding. This is your strategic plan fund. This is the particular fund where we hit those large ticket items and those major game-changing projects that are going to move the city forward. So as we leapfrog forward in the future, this is the fund we turn to, and this is where you have the ability really to massage and work with these numbers every single year and during the year, actually. It's a very flexible fund, and because of its flexibility, it gives us the ability to deal with projects as they come forward. And in the years ahead of us, you're going to see that on the riverfront, in particular in downtown, because you can never predict when somebody's going to step up and say, I want to do this project. I want to put in 70 units and I want to have commercial on the ground floor. How can we work with them? this gives us that flexibility. You know, not only for the infrastructure, but to work with the developers who are, you know, knocking on our door even now for what will be one of the highlights, I think, of the Illinois Quad Cities, and particularly Moline. So the funding sources, of course, you had the foresight to look at our property taxes. There's $987,000 for 2026, which has increased basically with the growth annually, and there's about $200,000 that has been set aside, specifically earmarked into the Special Capital Projects Fund. You took a leap of faith, you made a big decision, natural gas and electric franchise fees were put in place. You know, everyone in this city pays those, whether you're a private citizen or whether you're a business, everyone's paying those increased franchise fees. We don't hear anything from anybody about it, though. I want to just let you know that. I don't know if you do, but we don't hear about it. So they're absorbing that in. And again, those dollars, which are going to generate $1,846,200 annually, are what fund the strategic plan projects. And it's the strategic plan projects that citizens are most interested in, right? It's the infrastructure, it's the economy. You look back on the Polko study and what people had to say. They gave us great marks in some places it was like, some places they were concerned. Downtown was a concern. The riverfront is a major interest. So this is like returning money to people that they've spent and putting in place things that they will benefit from directly, whether they're toddlers, babies in carriages, or elderly people just going for a leisurely stroll. That's where we're focused right now, downtown. The amusement tax, the 5%, which we worked out with the Illinois Quad City Civic Center Authority, the arena, $500,000 that goes into this fund annually. That's a significant amount of money, and the arena has been paying it religiously, but they're also watching it, and they're watching their own budgets as well. So we need to be careful, make sure that we live up to the letter of our agreement with them, and that as we look to do improvements downtown, that we are directing some improvements around the arena. And for example, in particular, when we do the improvements to River Drive, you know, paying attention to what their needs are. They've participated in those meetings. And then in particular, the quiet zone that's going to happen, which is beneficial. And the intersection improvements at 12th and River Drive, that's going to be a big win for them. And that's going to be a very expensive project. So the $500,000 is being spent appropriately, if anyone should ask. The federal and state grants, again, they're various. They come, they go. We're in a strange time right now with the new administration, and things will calm. They always do. And we will continue to pursue the grants, both those which we have applied for before and we're close to achieving, and the ones that we, you know, will need for the riverfront, whether those are for environmental or brownfield improvements down at the riverfront, or whether it's for transportation-related issues like the build grant. We scored well on the build grant. You know, we needed 6 out of 8 categories to be ranked high. We ended up with 4 out of 6, and one of those issues was innovation, and the other one was environment. We think we're innovative. We think the environment was covered. We're going to go back and we're going to hit them hard in January with a new application. But we're also going to shift a little bit, and we're going to include those transportation improvements across River Drive, connecting literally 19th Street over to 23rd Street for the improvement of the property we acquired from IDOT. And then the intersection improvement with the on-ramp. Those are the things that build is really designed for. So we are going to pursue that and amend our application accordingly. So keep an eye on that. Bonding for larger projects like the fire station and the riverfront. Again, that's all part of the Special Capital Projects Fund. There's about $215,000 coming in from general fund and the cannabis fund into this. Land sales, again, we haven't sold anything yet. We are in the acquisition mode. We will end up in the land sales mode, and those dollars, of course, will be reinvested right back into the development areas, you know, and any interest, of course, earned. The proposed 10-year special capital projects are supported by $100 million in new revenue. Let's see, we've talked about the pillars, $24 million There's additional infrastructure CIP projects that's being increasing annually by $3 million. There's $27 million, of course, set aside for the new central fire station on 7th Street. City Hall solution is yet to be determined. As you know, we're working toward that solution, and when we get there, you'll be the first to know because you'll have to make a decision. It'll rest with the council as to what we do. There's seed money that is in there to establish the Moline Housing Fund. As you know, we had about $2.8 million in there for housing, specifically for one project. That one project was not capable to get off the ground for multiple reasons, some of which were totally out of the control of the developer. But they are still hard at work behind the scenes looking to come up with a development plan for that property, as well as 3 other properties that they're acquiring. So as we look toward the future, that $3 million or 2.8, 2 to 3 million, we'll talk more about that on Saturday, but that is a housing fund that could grow potentially to up to $10 million with private investment dollars contributing. So we'll talk more about that on Saturday, and I will invite Alex Elias in to share what Renew Moline is doing to become an even better development partner with the city, a bigger development partner. So that's forthcoming. Let's see. The economy is supporting private and public partnerships. As you know, we do quite a bit of that. And as far as quality of place, the riverfront development, I-74 improvements are a major focus area, and those in turn really will create that quality of life aspect that we've been chasing. Whether it's public art, whether it's public play fields, whether it's arts and entertainment centers on the riverfront, all of that is built into your strategic special capital projects fund. We should rename it the Strategic Capital Projects Fund, but special works for now. Timeline-wise, I won't go through the whole timeline. You know where we're at. We started back in June. We're here in October, mid-October. Saturday, you'll have a chance to really go through any and all remaining issues that you might have questions or concerns about for the budget, and we're hoping that we'll be able to agree to the property tax levy. As you know, or if you don't know, we have rolled back that levy by the $169,000, returning that to the general public, and now the levy rate has gone down for the 5th consecutive year. 5th consecutive year. And the only thing I would say about that, that's great news, as long as it's sustainable. And the only way it's sustainable is with growth. Increases in value, and not just your houses that exist today, but with the addition of projects like the project that Mr. Thompson is bringing forward on 6th Avenue. That's the kind of growth that brings meaningful dollars into the budget in form of property tax, which gives you the ability to lower the property tax levy and maintain it. However, in the future, should that change, and should you ever see a stop in development, you have to have a very measured approach, because your service costs are growing with your community. And if those service costs continue, and they would, you would be forced to make a reduction in services to balance your budget due to a lack of growth and the need to increase your levy to cover those costs. It's like deferring maintenance on a building like the City Hall or the fire station. It will come back to bite. So I'm just saying that tonight. I have no problem bringing it down for a 5th year, but I would caution that you must watch the growth carefully and support it. Okay? With that, I'll turn it over to Carol.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I would like to, skipping ahead here, take you through the operating budget highlights. And there are quite a few slides here. I'm going to do a high-level review. We're going to have an opportunity, like Bob said, to have more discussions on Saturday, but I want you to have kind of a feel for the overall budget prior to heading into Saturday. And so the budget as presented, as Bob stated, it's $164.1 million, and it funds all existing city services and authorized personnel. 26% of the budget, if you take a look at the pie chart there on the side, 26% or $53.2 million funds existing salaries and benefits, which are up an average of about 6.43%. That's just for existing. When we add on the new positions that we discussed a few weeks ago, that goes up a little bit over 7%. The GWI and merit increases are averaging about 4.875% across the board. Our health insurance, and we've got another slide, we're very fortunate that our renewal is coming in at only about 4.53%. And nationwide, that's more on the 8 to 10%. But again, it is a big chunk of money, and we're going to go through that here in a little bit. The IMRF, which is the pension funds for the majority of our staff, is 4.45% up from 3.78%. That doesn't look like a whole lot, but it is a 17.7% increase. So dollar-wise, when you think of your pension contributions jumping over 17%, that's part of the reason that big 6.43% is high. Looks a little bit on the high side. Our police and fire pension funds are up $476,000, or about 10.85%. Again, the new full-time positions and then the additional seasonal hours we talked about a couple weeks ago is a little over $400,000. And the budget does assume a 5% vacancy rate for 26, which means we are averaging about 22 positions throughout the year open. But that is down from 6.5% this last year. So HR, they have been doing a great job. It was between 25 and 26% last year, and now it's down to 22. So as we go through the budget, you'll hear me also mentioning our overtime as a result is also going down because we haven't had to backfill open positions with overtime. So quite a few good things that are happening in this budget. If we look at the capital improvements, I actually looked back because Bob and I had been talking about this. This is actually the most money that the city has ever spent in capital projects in 1 year. Just shy of $80 million, and it's 39% of the budget. So as we've said in the past, the philosophy has been a lean operating and an aggressive capital. So we are bricks and mortar, giving the citizens things that they can actually hold on to. So lots of capital expenditures in this budget. Our debt service makes up about 7%, and that's been flat. We don't have any additional debt right now. And the other big one here is our operating expenses. It makes up 28% of the operating, but I am so beyond proud of our directors. It is only up 1.45%. And as you know, just with the cost of inflation, everybody's costs are up. But the directors just held the line, and I do mean everywhere, to keep that budget at 1.45%, and that's with Bob's guidance. Yeah, so very proud of all the directors. Transfers are right about the same, $8.2 million. And so as we leave this slide, although our costs are increasing, it is a very conservative budget all the way around. And like I mentioned, the directors have been very conservative with their budget requests, and you're going to see that again on some future slides. Any questions on this one? We'll head right into the revenues, and I'm only going to hit kind of the top four. We are very fortunate that we have a diversified revenue stream, and when you have a strong diversified revenue stream, that helps stabilize the budget. So if one thing happens to get out of kilter, and we're going to find that with our personal property replacement taxes, we have enough revenue from other areas that it stabilizes it, so the operating budget continues on. The top four revenue streams, number one is intergovernmental, little ways down there on that list at 25%. That includes all of our sales tax, income tax, the personal property replacement use tax, federal and state grants. Very strong number, 25%, that has been maintained pretty much across the board year over year. The second biggest revenue stream is our charges for services, primarily all the utility fees from our core enterprise funds. Number three is our other city taxes, which include hotel, motel, all of our prepared food, home rule sales tax. And fourth is property taxes. You will actually see some cities where property taxes are number one revenue stream. Ours is the fourth. So I think we can be very, very proud of that number as well. Here's the top 10 revenue streams, and again, I'm not going to go through all of these, but if we look down the 26 estimate, which is highlighted in yellow, this is our top 10 revenues, make up $83 million, or 51% of our total revenue stream. The $164 million budget that's balanced, it's virtually 51% of the budget. And to only have 10 revenue streams making up 51 means there's a lot of other revenue streams that are making up the 49%. So again, there's a lot of stability for the city from that standpoint. Just want to make one highlight. It's now leveled out, but in the horizontal yellow box highlighted in red, that is the personal property replacement tax. And as you know, over the last few years, that's been a little bit of a struggle. We've had to keep a watchful eye. When we go back to 21, or go back to 20, we were at 2.5 million. Then we headed into the 21 year. It was in COVID. It's like, my word, basically doubles. But it was wonderful in a COVID year. But then it doubled again, almost. And it maintained. It went down a teeny bit, down to 6.8 million, and then down to 4, but it's like, what in the world happened with that? So it has been a bit of a struggle. Fortunately, Bob and I had a lot of conversations. It's like, how can this be? As you know, the state overpaid us, and they've been clawing it back over a period of years. We now believe that we are stable and back into that about $3.2, $3.3 million per year, and our budget's balanced within that number. Now we head into property taxes. Our 25 rate setting EAV, collectible in 26, for the first time is over $1 billion. 1,037,000,037. That's the highest it's ever been. It's up 57 million, which pushed it up into the $1 billion range, or an increase of just shy of 6% over 2024. So we had excellent growth, and it's not just residential, it's in commercial as well from the development decisions that the council has made. Administrations, and I use the word revised in quotes because it is revised. We listened to you back in September when we had discussions where we were recommending going over the 5% to try to give extra money into our special CIP fund. But we listened to you and we have revised our recommendation down 1.54 cents down to a total levy rate of $1.7077. And that is the lowest levy rate in 36 years. If we take a look then, since our growth went up, what does that equate to in dollars? Even with lowering the levy rate, we are still going to have an increase in total property taxes levied to the total of 837,000 new dollars, which is up about 4.97%. And the total will be $17,685,000 total. And we'll get into it in a minute where that money is going to go. If we take a look at as far as the new dollars, or the new dollars that are available, the 837, new construction was about 14,000. Doesn't sound like a lot, but we've got a lot of new value that's coming on board for the future. That's paving the way. And our existing properties is 823,000. And it does not require the truth in taxation public hearing that we had talked about a couple weeks ago. And this slide here shows where that $17.6 million is going. If you look down the 26 year, you've seen this in front of you before. Just to highlight, police and fire pensions together, those top two lines, it's an increase of 476,000 for an average increase of about 10.85%. This is mandated amount from the state of Illinois, and this is actually funding the statutory minimum amount, And we're able to do that because of our pension obligation bonds. We are positioned very well to hit that 90% level in 2040. So we've positioned ourselves very well. The general fund, the main general levy is not general fund, is totaling $987,000. It's up $200,000. 100% of those funds supports that special CIP fund that Bob was just talking about. Then we've got our debt levy. This pays the pension obligation bonds. Again, that is mandated in those bonding documents that we would be levying taxes for those bonds. And then we've got a 3% increase for both parks and library. So 4.97% increase in total, staying under the truth and taxation. And then the SSAs 5 and 6, they are keeping their levies flat. Any questions on those? And again, you've seen this one as well. This is the impact of the property taxes on our residents and the commercial properties. The average home in Moline is $157,000, and that equates to an increase of $37, or about $3.08 a month, for an increase of 5.16%. That increase is less than the growth in the EAV, which is highlighted by that little arrow. You'll see a 6.4% in the growth. The increase in taxes would be 5.16% on a resident. Taking a look at commercial, it's $147 a year, which is about $12.25 a month, up 3.85%. Any questions on that? Then the next one, this was a new chart that we put together at the request of council, and just to highlight it again, over the percentage growth captured in property taxes over the previous 10 years, so this is an average of the last 10 years. If we reduce our levy rate down to the 1.70 that we just talked about, that percentage growth captured in property taxes will be at 37.18%, that lower right-hand number. So we're only taking 37% of the overall growth from
So
the 80.
That's not factual. I'm sorry.
Can you clarify your statement, please?
This plan calls for taking 84% of the
Yes,
growth.
no, for that year, for this year. This is an average for 10 years.
Laundering it over the last 10 years doesn't change the fact that we're taking 84% of the growth. And I think that just needs to be clear.
Okay, that's a very solid point. And if you look at this chart, very valid point. That is the green column. I'm sorry, I just hadn't gotten to that. That percentage, this is year over year. You can see the growth kind of up and down. Last year in 25, it was 38%, and this year, even with the reduction in the levy rate, it would be 83.49%.
So it is a departure from what we've done for 4 years, where we've taken less than 50% of the growth, or just around 50% of the growth.
Yes, it's higher. It's higher, and a lot of it is because, as we talked about, the mandated police and fire pensions, and then wanting to try to find funding for the strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the pensions went up $476,000. They basically ate most of the growth.
Where, can you point to me one more time where the dollar amount of growth is?
The total, well, the total dollar growth in the EAV is the second column.
Thank you.
And you'll see in the current year that we're in, it was 979, and it has grown now to $1 billion, $1,037,037, 5.92% growth. Last year, the EAV grew more overall, but yes, we did not take as much of the growth.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the council? So really, like, if you could break it down a little bit more, if we weren't trying to fund a housing fund at 2 to 3 million, if we weren't trying to put in money for the downtown riverfront at a sort of hefty clip because of all that we need to do with developers, et cetera, then the possibility of not taking 83 or 84% of the growth would actually be possible. It's these choices we have to make about how much we want to go where. Okay,
That's correct.
thank you. Next page.
This is the total impact. Again, you've seen this. Just because it's on a PowerPoint, I'm only showing half the slide. The full slide on an annual basis is in the budget book in the presentation materials. But if you look down in 2026, this number has not changed since September when we last updated it. The monthly impact is $9.18 a month. And again, those are increases everywhere from every fund that we're needing it from. Property taxes is that $3.08 we just talked about. The natural gas and electric fees, again, this was supplied from Mid-American, $2.47. And then all of the utility fees, that's what's driving those funds to break even and to build South Slope and to do the lead pipe replacement. And that second reading is on the agenda for tonight. We've had a lot of discussions on that. So the total is $9.18 per month. On an annual basis, it is $110.20. If you take a look at that 3-year average coming up, again, we don't have a crystal ball, but as best we can project, the average on a monthly basis, if you add 26, 27, 28 together, divide it out, it's averaging about $7.75 per month on average over the next 3 years, or about $93 per year. And we're gonna have to continue to monitor that. Those are my numbers, it's not listed there. But that's the total. And again, it's driving that strategic plan primarily. Any questions? I'll try to kind of go through these kind of quickly here. On the expenditure side, our top 3 expenditures, the number 1 is our capital projects. The pie chart that's in front of you only shows governmental funds because, as you know, in the business type, we don't actually budget for capital because they're capitalized. But if we add the capital in for the business type, it is our number 1 piece of the pie. 39% of all expenditures are for capital expenditures. Our number 2 piece of the pie is public safety, our police, fire, and inspections. And the 3rd is our business type. So the top 2 priorities, capital projects and public safety. And personnel, again, you've heard these numbers, but we've got 4 new full-time positions recommended for 2026 for a total with seasonal, additional seasonal hours for a total of 404,494. It's just totaling those 2 numbers there of the full-time and the seasonal. This is my number on the overtime citywide is down about $134,000 or 7.7%. And overtime in total, 1.6 million for 26 versus 1.75 in the current year, 2025. And again, a lower vacancy rate, less backfilling with overtime. And so our total full-time authorized positions for 26 will be 425 positions. This sheet on personnel is for salaries and benefits. I'm sorry we didn't get that copied on there. Salaries and benefits. These are the positions that you've seen before, with the exception of 1 additional position for the Assistant Director for Utilities that we added after we had our discussion. Bob had provided you a discussion back in September. We are now also asking for your consideration. It would be fully paid out of fees, existing fees, so we're not talking about raising fees, but out of the existing fees, out of the 3 enterprise funds, not sanitation, but water, WPC, and stormwater would share in that position. Okay. This next slide is showing our total CIP infrastructure, and you'll see the highlighted, I've been talking about the 79.5 million. When we did our review with you back in July, we had those great big long sheets in CIP. Whenever we adopt the CIP plan, it also includes all of our patching projects. And so this is including another couple $1 million for all of our patching work and some of that asphalt, $81.9 million for 2026. And you can see, just kind of go down the bullets, I'll just highlight a few, but the CIP and MFT projects total over $20 million. A big chunk of that is for our arsenal, the arsenal redecking. Then we've got the special CIP, almost $6 million in 2026. And again, that's going to depend on which projects the council moves forward with. We got small projects and some of the TIFs. In Illinois 92 corridor TIF, you'll see $2.5 million. We've got money set aside there for the second phase of flood protection. It's with that PAR TIF. So that's part of the money there. Then we've got water at just shy of $11 million, primarily all the lead pipe replacements. WPC, $33.8 million for South Slope and some North Slope work. And we've got over $1 million in vehicles for fleet, and in facilities, $1.1 million for various interior work, police and fire, public works, HVAC. And we'll go through more of that on Saturday.
Quick question, is this maintenance 2.5 the same as the 2 to 3 we've been putting aside based on the PCI?
Yes.
It's not something new?
No, it's the same kind of year over year. I think it might be up a teeny bit out over the current year.
Yeah.
But it's been a solid amount and much larger than what it was. Like you look 2 years back, it was a very small amount, much smaller.
Okay.
Oh, I should mention as well, because Bob had asked me this question. Last year, and you know how much ARPA money we were spending over those last couple of years. Last year with ARPA was just shy of $60 million. This year, we're at 80. So, and again, largely because of South Slope, but it's large dollars that are being committed to capital. We'll go through the general fund here. This is kind of broken down by area. The highlight of this would be is if you look at the red and gold where you see police and fire, and then you'll see other public safety in a lighter blue, 68.5% of the general fund budget is for public safety. So very high priority on public safety in the community. The next highest is 16% for our public works, and that's all the streets, all the maintenance, your snow removal, all those types of things. So high priority on public works. And that leaves the remaining little slices. 15.5% is your administration, legal, HR, finance, and CED. So much smaller pieces of the pie. The priority, public safety, and public works with streets. In the general fund, if we take a snapshot of the current year and then moving forward over the next 3 years, the key thing is to look at our fund balance where we are at. As you know, we have a city policy to try to keep within 72 to 90 days, that 20 to 25%. The budget being proposed stays right within those guidelines, right on the mark. And the current year we anticipate, that's with the amended budget we'll be talking briefly about on Saturday. We anticipate to end the year just slightly over 25%, so we've had a good year. We're projecting a good year to end with. 26 is dropping down about 23.84%. if you take a look at my bullets there, the net change, part of that drawdown is because of this TIF advance for the flood protection for PAR. We didn't have sources for all of that. Part of it had been set aside for the first phase with ARPA money, but the remaining balance is coming from a combination of the general fund and some CIP money that we had already budgeted, cash flowing, and then we're gonna be getting it back. And we'll be talking about that on Saturday, how quickly we get the money back. In addition, if you look down the bullets there, just the main highlights, our TIP cash advances. As you know, the general fund is supporting a lot of the TIFs. It's rising from 9.5 million in 2025 up to 10 million, a little over $10 million in 26. And then it's going to gradually decrease through 2043, and we've got a chart coming up to show that. Our capital equipment this year is actually on the lower side in the general fund, but it does fund $150,000 for citywide network expansion of the police cameras. We've got our standard, it's been our annual amount, $1 million transfer into parks to help support their operating and capital. We've got the $400,000 in there for the contingency for council. And as you know, $75,000 of that has been earmarked for public art, but we've got the $400,000 in total. Our operating costs, this is the general fund. Every fund is slightly different. Operating costs in the general fund increased 1.69% over 2025 compared to citywide 1.45, but still it's a very conservative amount, 1.69%. That is net of, we were able to find funding for the $100,000 amount that we would like to have to support the America 2050 celebration without taking it out of the council contingency. So we did some shuffling around. Then we talked about overtime, and we also have in there $75,000 for 2026 for the environmental resiliency strategy, and about $50,000 plus going forward. This is just kind of just shows the fund balance. For a few years, we were up a little bit higher, and then we took those funds, we primarily transferred them into the special CIP. But as we are recommending and proposing this budget, we are within that policy, 20 to 25%. But again, we always hope that we're gonna end in the black and that we'll have a few dollars extra, but it's budgeted.
I don't know if you show this in another kind of way, and I'm just thinking of it right now, and you just need to point me somewhere. But a lot of the last few years have been this preparation of the special CIP, right? We had maybe fewer projects that things were actually going to. But can we start to have a chart that shows here's what we've put in and then here's where it went out, right? So that we can really see that we're switching over from the preparation phase to everything getting activated, and we're not just hanging on to money.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm not sure if you have a visual for that, but I
Yes.
think it would be helpful.
No, but we can get something together for Saturday.
Oh,
We can shoot for
whenever. I
that.
mean, I think we all understand what the special CPI is
Yeah.
for. It's more about, for the public's benefit, to know that we're not just sitting on this huge pile of money. It's actually now starting to churn, right? Because we have projects to fund, and they're all getting off the ground.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're on, all right?
Yes,
I
Mr. Toomey.
think, especially if we get any pushback on franchise fees, and informational like that is really good to say, here's where that money is going.
Exactly. We have to show where it's going. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's good to know too at this point that obviously for years we've been building up our cash reserves specifically to deploy them, kind of in a laser focused approach downtown and at the riverfront. We've been acquiring real estate for years, right? And it took years to acquire all of it so we'd have control over the future development downtown. And you're right, as we start to move forward with these projects, the dollars are going to come back out, right, to attract investment, and then offsetting those investment dollars that we are investing we should see more money coming back in. So every dollar we're putting in, I'd like to see money coming back out in terms of growth. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess so that's a
We
twofold
can do that project by
request is like,
project.
at some point, yeah, show us how many dollar growth we got for this much investment.
Right.
But really, it's where did the money from the big pot of special CIP go year over year?
That might take a little bit, but yes.
Thank you.
We will get you some. One thing to note on this chart, it is very important as we anticipate bonding for the fire station to keep good, healthy reserves. Because Moody's investors, they look very strongly at that. And number one, you always like to have a high bond rating or a credit score because it drives what your interest rate is.
Right.
So if there's any chance at all.
And also, and I see you, I think Mr. Vitas was chatting with me one day and said, you want to keep an even amount of bonding because that also shows Moody's that you're investing in yourself and then therefore, you're not a huge risk. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay,
is.
great. Mr. Schmidt.
I believe I have asked this question before, so it may sound familiar, but I think it's good to check in based on what you were just saying. Is our fund balance policy actually the most advantageous to the city? Or do we need to make an adjustment? Or is it truthfully that we're in an adequate place, they're looking for stability and being able to stick to a plan more than they are in a specific number?
This is a very standard amount to have at least 90 days.
Yeah.
Moody's, of course, like any, I say a banker for a comparison, the more money you have, the more they like.
Yeah.
But if you have a consistent 90 days and you have a policy where you're not just willy-nilly drawing the fund down, the only reason we draw it down is for one-time purchases or a one-time transfer out to another fund. It's not ongoing, so you're not going to
operations.
compound your problem.
Right.
Yeah,
But 90 days pretty much is the standard.
it is.
It's an industry standard.
Just want to make sure we're not like holding ourselves back there. Good.
Okay, please continue.
And this is a good chart. I'm hoping it made me feel good. It hopefully will make
Made me
all of
feel
us
good,
feel good. This is our TIF advances only from the general fund. We have more, but this is only the general fund. And as you know, it has been a concern ongoing. When will the end ever come? But for 2026, we are going up that second bar in. We are going to be at $10,067,000 in 2026. Again, that's because of the par. And our general fund can handle it. We're still at our 25% reserves. We made it all work. But you can see, and the biggest driver of this are, number one, the EAVs, and all of our TIFs are going up. But we have new development in some of those TIFs that are driving it down. And one of the biggest ones is in our TIF 7, that LRS with the new projections that we have. We anticipate TIF 7 by the time it closes out to 2035, so that's 10 years away. We're going to come very close to breaking even. And originally, we thought we were going to be stuck with $3 million.
$3 million? I thought it was 9.
Yeah. No, in total, across all of them, it was over 9. Yes.
Got it.
Yes. But anyway, so over that 10-year period, for 2026, a little over $10 million right now from the general fund. Looking forward into 10 years ahead, it's going to, across all the TIFs, decrease down to $3.78 million, or a reduction of $6.3 million. And that is realistic. And the reason I'm really emphasizing this, as we continue to go year over year balancing the budget, and we're always looking at ways to save money and to keep that levy rate low, none of us want to raise taxes. This is going to be a mechanism, because as we don't have to take general fund balance to cash flow those TIFs, we will be able to use it on an annual basis now to balance the general fund budget, which is the biggest, operating budget of the city. So very positive in the future. So, sorry. keep going. The TIFs, we're gonna talk about this more on Saturday. But the cash advances, now this is from all funds, not just the general fund, because we have water and sewer, we had some RANs for the TIF 7 to support TIF shortfalls. It is rising in '26 to over $13.7 million. And the biggest one that increased is PAR. Phase 1 was paid 100% with our ARPA funds, $1.2 million last year. And then we just got bids here on the second phase of the $2.5 million, and we're sharing that cost between the general and CIP. We had money in the CIP, but we're placing it in this TIF, so we're gonna recoup it all. We anticipate it all to be paid back by 2042. I know that's a ways out, but at least if we can get those dollars back, that's the key thing. Again, new development opportunities continue to be high priority for the council. And TIF number 7 and 11, they may not break even by the end of their life, but they are greatly improved from just a year ago. And so as time goes on, it would be wonderful if we can keep driving those numbers down. We do have available project dollars in TIF 3, 5, 10, and 12. We've kind of talked about 12 recently. You have to spend that money in the year that the excess is there, or you have to give it back across all taxing districts. I've already talked to the directors regarding the current year. In 2025, we've got $250,000, and we have money, our projects already targeted to be spending those increment monies, largely infrastructure, putting some extra money in some projects. Cannabis fund, we talked about this, but I just wanted to show it. After you adopted giving additional money to Project Now, this spreadsheet here shows we've got $315,000 annually going to Project Now. It's an additional $50,000, and then the new Moline urgent rental and utility assistance for $150,000, along with our $215,000 that goes into the special CIP. And we've only had our cannabis here for a little over a year, but it's been a steady stream. We're gonna have to continue to monitor that on an annual basis, but right now, amazingly, it's been coming in very, very, very steady. And then this is just for information. We had a nice presentation from CED and KJ on the project Uplift that talked about our homelessness prevention. And for 2026, we have $865,000 allocated from various sources citywide, but the $865,000 is built into the budgets that are before you and that we'll talk about on Saturday. Over a 4-year period, including the current year, it's about almost $3.4 million.
Mr. Timian?
Just to confirm, the $150,000 was only approved for 2025. Is that correct? We're doing this on an annual basis if we're gonna add more to the Level Up program from cannabis?
I believe we've only approved it for the rest of this year. This would have to come back to us.
Right, well, you're only approving the 26 budget, so you'll be back for 27, back for 28, but this is just projecting the use of the fund.
Thank you.
But that could be a discussion topic for Saturday.
Other than the west, the place over by the casino in Rock Island, have we heard of any other cannabis places going up in the rest of the county?
I have not. Maybe CED have, you heard?
I have not heard of any other cannabis
I mean, I know that's one thing we were looking at is how
Yes.
would that impact us if it sort of diluted our income from there, but okay, thank you. Please keep going.
Okay. And here's our library garden. Staffing and operating budgets are being maintained. They're open about 63 hours on a weekly basis. Their Sunday hours continue, and it's working out well. They get an average of just shy of 200 patrons each Sunday. And for 2026, about 10.7% of their operating budget is allocated to materials for patrons. And that is right on target, which with what the typical library standards are, which range between 8 and 12%. And this helps ensure that there are quality resources available for the patrons. Maintenance of the library garden has already been incorporated into the budget. It was planned for even prior to building it to make sure that ongoing it was going to be very well maintained. And that is also built into the budget. We've got some additional seasonal dollars and help from our Public Works
So
Department.
that's, I'm sorry to interrupt you, that's not part of the 3% increase.
Yes, it's all, everything's included.
It is
Yes,
part of the 3%
yeah,
increase.
everything's included.
Have we been doing the 3% increase for their budget this last few years?
The last couple of years, it was actually before your time. Before that, their operating budgets were hurting so badly. They were in dire straits.
Right.
And so we just worked very, very hard to get adequate funding, knowing too that on the citizen survey, just like parks, that was a very high priority from that survey. And that 3% equates to around $100,000 a year of additional money that they're asking, and it's not a lot when you look at salaries, operating costs, and everything. I mean, it is a lean budget. It's amazing what they can get done on the budgets that they're asking.
Okay, thank you.
And their fund balance as a percentage of expenditures by 2028, it's at 22.55%. So again, right within our city policy of 20 to 25%, not over the top, not hoarding money. And part of it, and it's already built into that fund balance drawdown, is the outreach van will be purchased here in 2026. We paid for half of it in the current year, and the second half will be next year. Now we're into parks. Again, staffing and operating budgets are being maintained, and the 26 budget implements the Parks and Rec Master Plan, which again is a part of the new strategic plan that you guys just adopted on your new strategic plan, and that is at that $1 million level, which is what the master plan had recommended. And you can see the projects there that the Park Board and Eric have been recommending. So a variety of things happening. The budget also includes a $600,000 towards the Oslet grant with the $60,000 match, and I think that just came before you, hoping we're going to be successful with that. It does fund the third year of operating expenses for the Riverside Aquatic Center, and Eric, we'll be talking more on Saturday, but those pool and concession revenues on the revenue side have been very stable. You come out of the chute and it's a nice little peak when it first opens, but it's been nice and steady. You know, it hasn't been like it's been a huge drop off. So I personally, from finance director, am pleased with that. We continue the tree bank program at about $100,000 annually, about 240 trees. And again, that fund balance is going to be close to that 22% range as well. And it's working over the 3 years. And you know, Catfish Charlie currently is closed, but the current owner is current on the loans, and so the city is.
He hasn't missed a single payment.
Has not. Nope. And this is our active and retiree health fund together. I know Ashley and Leah worked very, very hard this year on a renewal. The 26 total expected cost for the health renewal, it's actually projected down 1.3% when compared to the current year. However, we have to take out, from a realistic standpoint, you may recall that we had a lasered out potential claim last year in excess of $600,000, $625,000. Net of the lasers, we're actually up about 4.53%, which is still, that is an excellent number when you look nationally in the 8 to 10% range. But overall, the health fund is being very well managed. They keep a very close eye on it. Just a real brief review, the total annual expected costs are just shy of $9 million. So a lot flows through that fund. You'll see the regular administrative costs and the prescription rebates, and our annual stop loss costs are about $559,000. Our annual expected vision and dental claims, about $500,000. And then our annual expected medical and prescription claims are a little over $7 million. When we look at the health fund, we also have to take a look at 125% of the aggregate attachment point when we talk about health insurance. This gets very confusing, but the bottom line is, it is the maximum amount that we would have to pay for medical and prescriptions, $8.8 million, versus our expected. If you take a look at the history in our pool of employees, 6.9. So there is a gap. That's a 25% gap. So instead of, a lot of cities have to levy taxes for health insurance. We haven't had to do that. Fortunately, we have enough fund balance available to backfill that gap. So we're not budgeting extra dollars, we're not trying to do anything, but we've got fund balances that are adequate that we can 100% fill that gap on the aggregate attachment point. For active health, the amount required for that attachment point would be $1.46 million, and we've got $2.26 million available in the bank. And we have a fund balance, the cash balance in that fund is 32.8%. On the retiree fund side, we need about $560,000 to fill that 25% gap. And we've actually got almost $4.5 million available. And again, this one gets confusing with the OPEB. It's way too complicated than to talk tonight. But we've got a solid amount of funded OPEB funds available for our accrued liability at just shy of 32%. And that's been very, very consistent. So again, this fund is being very well managed. On the liability, it's the same story, very well managed. Our total insurance premiums are projected to increase 6% this year. Total claims are projected to increase 8 to 10%, and that's just kind of the standard that is just as it ends up. Total claims, it's not on the sheet, but it's about $550,000 annually that we pay self-insured out of pocket in this fund. We currently only have 3 litigated claims that are outstanding. So again, very well managed. It's not like we've got, 20 or 30 claims out there. It's only 3 right now. On the work comp, our work comp deductible is $500,000 per person per claim. Again, that helps drive the numbers. We're fortunate we've got a good balance, but that's why it is larger, because if we have a handful of those $500,000 claims, we've got to be able to afford it. So our projected cash balance is just shy of $3 million. That has been adequate. We get an actuarial report done every other year, and we have adequate funding as they are recommending in that fund. And Annette Roby, she's going to be bringing to you the renewal, hopefully that first meeting or the second meeting in November. And then we'll have the exact amounts. So right now we're in estimates, but we don't anticipate it to be above what we've budgeted. And then just so you know, HR has ended their on-site nurse program effective in September, and it has an annual savings of $145,000. And the services that were provided are being provided now in a different way through our normal health care. So that is a big gold star, in my opinion. $145,000 annual savings. That's built into the budget as well. When we look at our city funds, I just wanted to give you a heads up for 2026, we have new funds. We've got that Moline urgent rental and utility assistance that has been established. That's just to keep the money segregated. And if by chance we didn't give it, I should say, I don't like the word give it out, but if we hadn't gone through all the money, like at the end of the year, it would carry over year to year. It's segregated and kept within that fund. We also have a new fund for CARES Cruise. I think you've heard about it. We've got our Tots for Kids, Toys for Kids here on Friday. and we've got employee contributions. And so we've set up a separate funds where employees can donate out of their paychecks and whatnot, but we've got a separate fund, not a lot of money in there. We're hoping it's gonna grow, under $5,000 right now, but, a separate fund. And then we're closing two funds, the land bank and then our CDBG COVID allocation. COVID has come to a close. Our enterprise funds, I won't touch on this too much, we've already talked. We had our roundtable, South Slope, 132 million lead pipes, 17 million over 3 years. And during Saturday's work session, we're happy to address any other questions you have. We're gonna hopefully adopt those fee increases yet tonight. And then one of the last slides here is the history of our governmental funds. And this is kind of telling the story, just since 2021, where we have been with our fund balances. And for 2026, the highlighted yellow, all funds without exception are within city policy for 2026. So that's a lot to be proud of, from the direction from council all the way down. You know, directors take that very, very seriously to stay within budget. And you're notified if we ever have problems, we alert you and let you know what's happening. Here's the remaining ones that are in the proprietary funds. I do have to put you on, I'll say red alert, because it's a red box in the corner right down, right? There is a possibility that we might be below our fund balance policy in 2028 for a one-time exception of paying for a $2.3 million ladder truck in fire.
Oh, yeah, that thing. Yeah.
But if it does dip, first of all, it may not. By the time we get to 28, we may be just fine. But
Based on today's information.
that is correct. Based on today's information, also as we look into 2029, I've been working with Sarah and Denver. 29, we are back on track and within policy. So it would be only a little dip, and we still have over $1 million in that fund. So it's not like it's in the
It's a good
hole.
thing that's a 20-year purchase, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Hear me, it's a 20-year purchase.
So again, I have to say the departments are doing a great job of managing their budgets, and I have to say, under Bob's watch. I mean, we have lots of reporting, lots of discussions with Bob, so it's all working.
Good.
Then we got our police and fire pension funds. We don't actually budget for those funds anymore. It's taken over by the state of Illinois. But we do have a tab in the budget book where you can look at all the last 10-year history. And then this is the slide kind of talking about our remaining 26 budget items that we'll be talking about on Saturday. And Bob, I don't know if you want to take this or I can walk them through.
No, I'm just looking at the clock,
Okay.
being mindful and saying, I'm good.
Yep, nope, we're gonna be good.
I'll have plenty to say on Saturday.
And so yes, there is now a link that is out there for you. You tell us where it's at, David? It's connected to your agenda item now, where you can access the budget book.
Please let us know if you have any
Yes.
trouble
Yes.
accessing. Sometimes that happens, it's a
Yes.
large document.
Yes, so it is all out there, and the last thing I just wanted, it's in the handouts. This is a copy of our calendar that we're very hopeful here that we'll be able to get the budget adopted by Thanksgiving. So we've got a lot of activity happening on the budget over the next 6 weeks. And then I did send a copy here of the agenda for Saturday that you can kind of look ahead, the types of things that we're going to be discussing. And we've got motions throughout the day like what we've done in the past. So just kind of be thinking of that. Again, I don't think there's any surprises here, but we have time for lots of discussion because we want this budget to be the way you want it to be. And then lastly, Bob and we have given you an option 10. We've had a lot of options on special CIP this year. So it's your big spreadsheet that we gave you as a handout. And we just wanted to show you, and we'll talk about this on Saturday. But as you know, I'm going to start at the top. You will see for 2025 column, going down that column, the first one is a highlight of the 575. For Saturday, we are looking at council to give us direction on how to allocate the 575 carryover from the general fund. We have placed it in the special CIP fund, but that is for council's consideration. But in this option, that's where it's lying right now. In addition, the big highlight here, nothing else has changed except these two highlights. The funds available, unallocated, it's the first big one. There's over $15 million, largely which we had kind of earmarked for the riverfront, but unallocated funds of $15 million. Do you see that line? Mm-hmm. That's slightly down from the last time you saw that because we have now added an additional yellow highlight for your consideration to create the Moline Housing Fund, seed money. And it's taking the 575 and then some of the money from that unallocated yellow line and dropping it in here for $2 million over a period of 3 years. And so something to think about as we head into Saturday. We're trying to address one of your strategic goals for housing, is the reason that we placed it that way.
Good,
Got it.
thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Timian?
Will we hear more about exactly what we plan on doing with the housing fund?
Yes.
Because like, that could incentivize me to want to put more money there based on, I don't just, yeah, so.
It could, and I will have Alex get into the fine detail on Saturday. I've invited her to the budget workshop. But they have been working tirelessly, probably for the better part of 6 or 7 months, to create this housing fund as a part of putting themselves in alignment with the city. So their strategic plan that I've been working on with them aligns with what we're trying to accomplish as a city. So housing is becoming like their major charge. They're going to focus on housing going forward for the next 5 years. The housing fund is a part of that.
And I will add that it's based on some work that's been done in Cincinnati with a group that has been very, very successful.
Yeah.
And Adam Gelter, I think is his name.
Adam Gelter.
He's come here, et cetera, learned all about Moline. But I would go and look up what they've been doing in Cincinnati because it's pretty amazing. Granted, they are like one of the homes of the most Fortune 500 companies. So they have that kind of level of private investment, but it is, as I was speaking with Renew Moline Board this week on, because I sit on that board, a review of the strategic plan feedback and a survey that she did. It's clear that the nimbleness that Renew has for doing some of those kinds of deals in a focused way, right? We have Christopher Parr and we have our CED, programs, et cetera. But I think the focus of this is what and the nimbleness of it because of the public-private partnership there, it's really private, right? I mean, anyway, she'll explain it. It's worth looking into, so.
Quasi-public-private partnership.
Yes, Mr. Schmidt.
Yep. Thank you, Your Honor. I appreciate the look at revising down our property tax levy. I still don't think we go far enough, and it's hard to come in with a number knowing that a revision was coming in, not having that number till this evening. I'm gonna sit on that for Saturday and likely bring it up for larger conversation. I mean, I understand the need to capture more. I do understand also that when we pass on property tax increases, that number compounds over years. But I think when I look at the increase to homeowners on the yearly basis, I think I'd love to see that get closer to $100 probably, and that likely takes about a 75% capture instead of the 84 that's on the table. That may be where I end up, or that's just a larger conversation I'm sure we'll have. But I just wanted to share some of that thinking, and we have a lot of other increases happening, and I think those are the right increases and where there needs to be. And so that's why I think it might be important for us to leave some of that on the table.
So, thank you for sharing that. that's really, you're trying to take away at least $10 from that monthly increase, because it was 110 or something,
Yeah.
right? Was
It was
the,
110.
yeah. And that would also mean that if anyone's interested in going that direction, if you could very closely look at, oh, okay, so we have been doing, you know, the 2 to 3 million of PCI every year. Do we need to bring that down to 1.5? So we're doing something on our roads, but the whole city has seen us do so much on roads. And if we're serious about housing, then do we balance it out by being able to keep 2 to 3 to go into a housing fund, or do we have to say 1.5? Or you see what I'm saying? I think it's really the next couple days, if you're interested in going a direction like Mr. Schmidt, you have to come to the staff with, okay, I'm gonna propose that we take it down to 1.5, or you see what I'm saying, from the 2 to 3? Because, and if you can do that ahead of Saturday, then they can have real numbers for the 3-year impact, right? Because really, it's like you were saying, the 15 million right here for the riverfront infrastructure that we're trying to get to because we know it's gonna cost a lot, right? That's where we'll end up seeing the impact if we change things drastically.
Yep.
Right? And I know you're not necessarily proposing drastic changes, but it is, what services are we gonna cut down on if we're going to try to make that impact easier for our residents, et cetera? Does that, I mean, we're clear, just, it's homework time again.
That's right. Looking
Everything
forward
is
to
important.
Saturday.
Housing is also important. We have to look for next 5 years. The population will increase, and he is here. Okay,
Well-
5%, at least 2-3%.
Oh, yeah,
So
you
we
wanted
need-
5% in population.
So,
Yep.
Well,
so we need housing.
yeah, one thing we noted, and this is a good time to share it, we had PMT today, we went through Renew's sponsored a $4,000 study of our housing and situation, what we need, especially in the downtown zone, the Moline Center zone, right? And it struck me that one of the things that we're looking at, just it's now called Riverstone Flats, used to be the JCPenney 2 Phase 2. Like, just because that's gonna have affordable units that get certain funding from the state, that's like a 2-year project, right? And we've already said for a year and a half, almost 2, no, yeah, a year and a half, that housing was one of our important things. We wore shirts about it, right? And so we do have serious things to consider, like, are we gonna put our money where our mouth is when it comes to housing? Because Chris can do everything we ask him to. He can, make the deals happen and, bring them forward, but it still leaves a hole that this housing study showed. There still need to be more units. Like, we're getting there with all the things coming forward, but I guess, you know how I like to say we like to walk the talk? That's why this housing fund dollar amount that we settle on, if anything, we have to seriously consider.
Yep.
Okay. Anything further from the council at this time? Mr. Timian?
I was looking at this page, the captured growth in property tax. I'm just kind of struck by how, we talk a lot about capturing a percentage of growth. And if we look historically, that's really easy to do if we're consistently growing $60 million a year, which we have been for, I don't know, since 2022. But before that, the growth was $1 million a year in 2016. And so they captured 1,000% of the growth. If we were limited to 50% of growth, it would have drastically at the time hurt the operating budget of the council. I'm not arguing one way or the other. I just think that there might be a time where we might be in a bubble and it might pop. And value's gonna go down below $1 billion, and we're gonna be capturing a massive, I don't know, a negative percentage? I don't really know how that works. But, so a super positive, it's just like, understanding it is an arbitrary goalpost that we're setting, that the more important number is the levy a good use of money that we are proposing? And is it funding what we want it to? And I think that's the question. Can we move money around? Absolutely. Should we consider it? Sure. I don't know if an arbitrary goalpost is the right way to do it, but guardrails are there for a reason too. So I think that this table is really informative, just to show that if we only get $1 million of growth in a year, we're gonna be proposing a $4,000 capture, or 4,000% capture.
Yeah.
And it's just,
You don't want to be there.
Well, yeah, that's why we very much have asked, I know, and you've given me the numbers, right? What's our real growth? Like, in my head, EAV is EAV, it's based on a formula. But like, what is our real growth we've had from commercial investment, et cetera, and
investment
business activity and all that? And I know we're doing well there, we're healthy there, but yeah, I mean, a pandemic upset the apple cart in some ways, you know, and we don't know what we could face again. I did want to make one, before I forget it, I understand the, you know, sort of average amount of staff we don't fill those positions. I am curious, as the furloughs and the government shutdown at the federal level goes on, if HR needs to think very creatively about capturing folks from the arsenal that could do any of these jobs that we might need. I understand that would increase our costs over the year. However, it would employ people from Moline who might be in a real state of distress because they're not getting money coming in. I just think that's being a good steward of dollars, as well as making sure people have jobs. Okay, anything further? Okay, October status and information report. Anybody got anything? It's laden with information.
It's heavily laden with information, but I just think just a couple things. The Lamar Johnson Collaborative Contract for the comp plan, they're having their first meeting, I believe, this week, if I'm not mistaken, or next week.
21st.
The 21st is the kickoff meeting for the steering committee?
Yes.
Okay, so we're getting rolling right away, right out of the chute, so that should make you happy. The Path Forward program got stood up, so that's going forward. A lot of heavy lifting going on in this community and economic development. South Slope, of course, kicked off, and we used the beautiful groundbreaking ceremony for the historical cover of this report. So that's all I have, for the interest of time.
Yes, and I know for the interest of time, I do have 2 points though. One, remember a couple years ago, we were going back through jobs that hadn't gotten done, and it was mostly like,
Council directives.
yes, council direct.
All 46 of them, or whatever it was.
I know, but I was driving through a neighborhood and I saw a church that is still boarded up, and I know we signed an agreement about that, and Mr. Timian did follow through and ask about it, and I got an update, so I know those people haven't been doing nothing, but that's it. I just put it out there as, can we make sure that all of those agreements that we're, you know, working on to change the face and the look of our neighborhoods by taking, you know, fixing the trashy structures and turning them into something, like, we just have to stay on top of it, or it's gonna take forever, and the community will feel like, well, nobody's doing anything, which isn't really true, but.
It's far from the truth.
Okay, and then I noted just in the HR section, I would like to know how is the paid family leave being used? How's it, you know, if we can get a little
You mean
email
paid
about
family
that.
leave?
Yeah, that was negotiated in contract, in union
sure, we can give
negotiations.
you a
I would
report
like
on
to know how that's going.
Yeah, it gets used frequently.
Okay. So, with that, if there's nothing further, I'll call our regular council meeting to order. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Invocations, Macias?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, roll call, please.
Alderperson Murphy.
Present.
Macias.
Present.
Razak.
Present.
Timian.
Present.
Finch.
Present.
McNeil.
Present.
Castro.
Present.
Schmidt.
Present.
Is there any public comment, Chief? Anybody from the audience? All right. Hearing none, we move to our consent agenda.
Your Honor, I request the approval of Committee of the Whole, Council, and Executive Session meeting minutes of September 23rd, 2025, and consent agenda items 15.1 through 16.2 inclusively.
Motion to approve?
Second. Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Just roll call, please.
Alderperson Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Non-consent agenda resolutions. Item number
Nope,
18.1.
hang on.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm so sorry. You're correct. Go for it.
18.1.
Yes, I
Okay.
caught up with myself.
All right, item number 18.1, a resolution authorizing the fire chief, oop, I gotta read the amended one, just a second here. A resolution authorizing the fire chief to execute a short-form conditional sale agreement with Flex Financial, a division of Stryker Sales LLC, for the purchase and service coverage of 3 LifePak 35 monitors and 2 power load systems from Stryker for the amount of $323,216.65, plus interest for the total amount of $363,224.94.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Schmidt. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion carries. Item number 18.2, a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute task order number 25-04 pursuant to agreement for technical services dated December 18, 2018, with Strand Associates, Inc., dated October 1, 2025, regarding North Slope wastewater treatment plant construction-related services for the chemical phosphorus removal improvements project for the amount of $196,000, and authorizing the Director of Utilities to execute any necessary documents related to this work.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, and that motion carries. Item number 18.3, a resolution authorizing the Director of Utilities to execute an agreement for services with Terracon Consultants, Inc. for concrete material testing, geotechnical construction-related services, and special inspection services as required for the South Slope wastewater reclamation facility improvements construction project for the estimated amount of $198,880, and authorizing the Director of Utilities to execute any necessary documents related to this work.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Macias. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays, that motion carries. Item, or non-consent agenda first reading ordinances. Item number 19.1, an ordinance amending Chapter 20, Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Moline Code of Ordinances, Appendix 5 thereof, all-way stop intersections by adding the intersection of 43rd Street and 5th Avenue, north and south branches.
Motion to advance the second reading?
Second. Motion by Finch, seconded by Castro. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays. Motion to advance to second reading carries. Item number 19.2, an ordinance amending Chapter 20, Motor Vehicles and Traffic of the Moline Code of Ordinances by enacting a new Appendix 15 thereof entitled 30-minute parking restrictions in non-metered zones and adding one on-street stall thereto at 1518 15th Street.
Motion to advance the second reading?
Second.
Motion by Finch, seconded by Razak. Discussion. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Alderperson Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays. Motion to advance to second reading carries, and that's all I have this evening, Your Honor.
All right. I know after our last meeting, you knew I was heading to the Hunt Institute to speak about what we've done around childcare and workforce development. I'll send you an email update on that, but just know that there's some really cool collaboration between the school district and Skip Along, as well as Mr. Parr's work on the statewide committee. And I'm certainly looking forward to a conversation with the chamber to discuss this as a workforce issue, because it doesn't appear to be a priority for many of the businesses around here, and we know that it's a priority for residents who need care. Miscellaneous.
No, I haven't.
Mr. Zach?
No, thanks.
Timian?
Your Honor, this is the time of year when I thank Public Works for showing up for the trunk or treat at Logan. I think they were there in bigger force than I've ever seen them before. We might have had 10 cars for the Touch a Truck, and it was really, really well attended and received. And I just want to thank them again for that.
Great. Ms. Finch?
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Just a reminder, the Employee Appreciation Cookout is tomorrow from 11 to 1. You're all invited. So if you're looking for a quick bite to eat, please stop by for any hot dogs, chilies, and s'more at Peterson Park. That runs from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And of course, it's been mentioned, but I'll mention it again, Friday, October 17th, 6 a.m. to 3 p.m. Toys for tots. So the toy drive will be over at Public Works. A great brochure about it. I'd love to see a dump truck filled like that. So run over, buy something, toss it in, drop it off. So
Thank
that's
you.
all I have.
Any other staff? Okay, and no more public comment? All right. I believe we have executive session.
Your Honor, I make the motion that the council convenes an executive session for the purpose of discussion of property acquisition -5 ILCS 120/2 C5, price setting for sale or lease of real property -5 ILCS 120/2 C6.
Second.
All right, motion by Murphy, seconded by Timian. Roll call, please.
Alderperson Macias.
Aye.
Razak.
Aye.
Timian.
Aye.
Finch.
Aye.
McNeil.
Aye.
Castro.
Aye.
Schmidt.
Aye.
Murphy.
Aye.
8 ayes, no nays. That motion carries.